Okay, hello everybody. It's Brian. It is Friday, and congratulations, Walt. I hope. Sorry, cat hair. Actually, surprisingly. Uh, hope the interview goes well. Message me offline if you have any questions. Um, just in case. I saw you were working on boot.dev. Ooh, man, got that cat hair stuck in me. Yeah, I saw you working on the boot.dev stuff. I am I am struggling with object-oriented programming, which kind of sucks because, like I said on the last stream I did, I am seeing a lot of what looks like object-oriented programming at with the code that we're working on at work. And hello, Age of Music, how are you doing? Yeah. So one of the, obviously I'm trying to go back through the oops chapter on yeah, there, going back to the oops bit with regards to there. Yeah, yes, Age of Music, I appreciate you. um so yeah, I kind of understand. Those were some good problems. I'm going to take your word for it there, Walt, because I find, so I don't want to say it's a little abstract for me in some cases, because what I'm finding with my oops is um, they don't explain it well enough for me. And of course, they put the old standby here of Wikipedia, and there's links, and I'll probably have an in-depth conversation with Boots at some point here, using one of the lessons that I already pulled, so I'm not burning any more um, burning any more stuff. But uh, I yeah, I just don't understand the self stuff. I'm all the way on number 5 here on inheritance, and literally number 4, the abstraction one. I think, which one was it? Which one was it? Was it this one? This one took me for freaking ever to get through, um, because I don't understand the when to use self, when to use the double underlines. I end up having to refer to Boots anyway on these things because, obviously, I'm just not getting it. As you can see, I had quite a long conversation with him the last time on this. So yeah. Yeah, so I feel like I'm going to get through this, and I've seen on the Discord as well that some people were like, "Yeah, I'm struggling with this as well," and it's just it's not. I get the majority of the Python part, but I don't consider this Python at all. It's You're just calling self and then raise if cannot sprint, and you're pulling up other definitions here, but I'm not considering this really programming at all. It just doesn't feel right. So uh oh crap, I've lost some of my lessons. I don't know what happened here. I mean, obviously I did the bits, but I've lost some of the lessons. So I'm gonna have to go back and through and do them again. That sucks. And it's really weird why some of them hold and some of them don't, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I didn't clear these by any way, shape, or form, so I'm not exactly sure why they're all gone now. So yeah, that does suck mightily. Well, damn. Yeah, because see, here's one that I did that. Of course, I did need a lot of help on that one as well. Actually, that one wasn't too difficult, but the one that it took me forever was like a level 4 Like it wasn't even supposed to be difficult, but that one took me forever. Damn, I didn't even save the code on this. I'm gonna have to go back through and do them all again if I didn't refer to any of those. Yeah. So yeah, it's not explaining it in a way that is helpful for me. They mention here abstraction is about creating a simple interface for complex behavior. That doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me, you know, focuses on what's exposed. I find this to be a bunch of crap. Why do I need to worry about exposing or not exposing things? Again, it's not a security issue, right? We're not in caps, I don't understand the hiding unnecessary details bit. I don't, we're not going to be, why are you hiding this stuff? So I'm just a little confused in terms of why you need to hide certain things, or it's not like you're making them mutable or making them, they say abstract is about reducing complexity, but you're adding complexity. Self means something within the class, either a variable that you defined or a method that you defined. It's how Python knows where to put the variable, I'm assuming, value from local to the object method, or does it come from the outside? Yeah, that sounds like a lot of theory to me. I'm not trying to be obtuse. It just feels like, why does it matter? Why does it matter where the value comes from, local versus outside? Because it's not like it's not taking my input, because all of this data is going to be collected. It feels like that maybe I'm missing a piece here. It's like, oh, we would do this if we're taking input from a command line or from a file that's being read in some way, but we're not doing any of those things in this case. Maybe some of that data is being supplied by the run cases over here uh, in that. So, um, but yeah, so it says he says, are we encapsulating or abstracting? We're almost always doing both. Here's an example of using the random library to generate a random number. Boxes of boxes, folders of folders. It's a way to organize the data into groups. I'm going to take your word for it, because again, I'm not seeing organization in any of this. I mean, um, it seems like it would be easier just to use an if statement or something like that to uh, each class is like a folder. Um, so what you're trying to tell me is if I want to sprint left, I need to call all of these references here. I did find this exercise interesting because Boots just basically told me, yeah, go ahead and put two of them in there like that. And I was like, that's stupid. Because in the first category, or was it clean code, they mentioned, where in the fuck was it? No, here. It's like, don't repeat yourself. It's like another rule of thumb for maintainable code: don't repeat yourself. And I was like, well, why are we contradicting what we learned in chapter 1? On in the, on the section where you're basically repeating yourself in the code, where the fuck that was. But yeah, so yeah, so anyway, right here. I mean, not only we're repeating ourselves, we're repeating ourselves twice on that. So I was actually trying to write this, because I knew I needed to use move up twice, because it mentioned, move twice in the direction of the sprint. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just create an if loop or something like that. Or no, it's completely okay to have two of the. I was like, yeah, see, you could use a for loop to call that 2 times. How might that look inside your sprint write? How would you think it improves clarity? I was like, it might actually make it more complicated. And then he said, "Oh, a little repetition makes the code easier for humans." It feels like that there's a double standard in this whole chapter. It's like, so if I want to move 3 times in one direction on sprint left, I just keep adding move lefts ad nauseum until I get what I want. But that's not clean code, you know. So I feel like I'm going to need to consult with a secondary resource or something to maybe um, uh, make this easier to understand, because it does feel like there's a lot of object oriented programming that's being done, uh, at least in where I'm at right now. So um, because uh, they give you this link, and of course it's just it's just the history of object oriented programming, from Wikipedia, but um, it's just I'm just finding it really complicated. So, and I'm going to have to go back through and do some more Python research and review as well. But this will be one of the ones that I have to go back. Each class is like a folder. It's like turtles all the way down, is what I'm understanding here. So, but yeah, I was trying to work on inheritance, which is its own thing, right? We've made it to the holy grail of object-oriented programming. Non-OOP languages like Go and Rust supporting encapsulation and abstraction. The idea is that you either do one or two things by doing it directly. After that, then you would use a loop. Yeah, so one thing or two things is okay, but after three, you want to use a loop. So there's seems like it's a hard and fast rule, or um, maybe it's a matter of maybe future proofing in that respect. I mean, why only call couple times and not use the if loop? Or if you're gonna be doing something twice, then you could create a definition for it, right? Like, every time you sprint, you're going to call this method, which is just do the same thing twice, or whatever. um, yeah, the child and parent classes inheriting things, I still haven't quite grokked that either. And a child, and to its point, where did they say that? It was, yeah, this one I actually got wrong, because it was like, no, wait, I got that one right, I think. Yeah, this one here. This is an opinion. Uh, there was a true false here, but it said, um, where I actually put that down here. I was like, explain the multiple choice question. Um, They said it's a question about inheritance and is a relationship fundamental concept indeed. I think this was trying to be a joke, but I was in the middle of like trying to understand, this is an opinion, right? Um, so the core idea here, as the lesson explained, is whether one thing is always another thing. Boot.dev is always a best learning platform, then inheritance makes sense. If it's not always true, then it doesn't fit the principle of inheritance. By definition, it may not always be the best learning platform, so it doesn't fit the principle of inheritance. But I understand they're trying to make a joke out of it, which kind of fell flat for me. So future upgrade could take a parameter number of moves if you find yourself doing lots of multiple moves. Okay. Yeah, I said seems more like the statement is more opinion than fact. Um, Lesson provides examples like cat inheriting from animal, because cats are always animals. Truck inheriting from vehicle, because a truck is always a vehicle. Vehicle is not always a truck. I get that part. I get that part. Um, yeah. So yeah, should only inherit from B if A is always a B, right? Cat should inherit from animal. Truck should inherit from vehicle. Lane should always bad because he's always bad at DOTA. Cat should not inherit from dog because a cat is not always a dog. Well, that's true. Animal should not, and I actually got this one wrong, I think. No, I got this one right, because a tree is a plant. Not all plants are trees. That's how I kind of figured that one out. I'm stuck right here on this one, obviously, because I haven't finished it up yet. To get my my 250 XP, I went through and did some of these as well. But this one made sense because inheritance can be as deep as you want it to be if we're doing like a Venn diagram thing. Um, I'm sure there's other things, but yeah, it was. I'm just running through a lot of issues with the object oriented programming in this respect. Hey, Digital Warhead, happy Friday. Glad you could be here. We're talking about object-oriented programming in this case. So turn off studio mode. There we go. All right. Uh, so I like the questions, but yeah, there's whoops, I skipped this one. I'm supposed to be doing this one first. Run. Yeah, see, I failed on that one. So yeah, the crossbowman bits need to be done here. Um, the good thing is there are the good thing is that Discord, somebody has always copy pasted the answers into the posts. I really don't like cheating like that, but I have found myself just like with the one where it was like, oh yeah, just add 2 move lefts or whatever. I was like, really, that's stupid. But apparently, when I went to the Discord to look and figure out how to get the answer to that, that was exactly the right answer to give. And I was like, that's a stupid way of doing it because I don't want to hit the solution because it costs me 10 credits every time. So no, I'm not down with OOP. Yeah, you don't know me. Um, to continue with the joke, but yeah, I'm object-oriented programming. I'm just having a really hard time with. So I was thinking about maybe moving on to something else. I know that it's not smart to do so, but my next big thing is building an asteroids game with Python and Pygame, which I'm assuming I'm going to need object-oriented programming with that. So I'm going to run into the same problems with building asteroids that I will have with this, because the first chapter, the first lesson was we're going to build a game, or we're going to use this game based on, like StarCraft or whatever. So if we're going to build a game or use Pygame, we're going to be doing object-oriented programming. So I'm either going to have to move down to something that's completely not Python related, like memory management in C or something, to or I could drop really far down and go down and just start learning Go again, which would be an interesting thing. Um, yeah, I mean, I had started learning Docker, which apparently there's some new Docker lessons here with regard to this. And I guess I could relearn Docker, but I heard they added a bunch of stuff for Docker on here. Um, but yeah, this one was easy enough. How to find a programming job. I could continue doing those because those aren't overly difficult. But yeah, um, yeah, it just sucks that it's either I'm failing to understand that or I'm not in the right frame of mind when I'm going through the OOP stuff that I need to work through it. Sometimes you can copy the answers by reading the unit tests. Yeah, I read through. I saw some of that where it was like when you're looking through here and it's asking you questions about those things. Sometimes the unit tests will give you exactly what you need. And I know that at some point we're going to be building unit tests in this because there were people that are they're making jokes in the Discord channel about, I survived the unit tests, chapter of whatever, and I can't remember where it is exactly that is occurring, but um, double check. Okay, so got 9 hours. Um, but yeah, I probably just need to do a little bit more reading, maybe go back through these and reread some of these docs. I wish there was maybe there is some videos online. Let me go see if he has, let me see if he has some videos on that. Community, YouTube, data structures, sorting, learn Linux full course. That's one I didn't need to do. I actually did most of the Linux stuff in about a day and a half because I already knew a lot of those. Um, that thankfully was easy. Might be needing to go through the 7-hour course for Python. Excuse me. Full courses, Git. Um, boot dev OP. Why learn Python, C program and memory management. Let's see, debugging, scope, computing, loops, dictionary, sets, errors. Okay, so that's not the one I want. So I mean, I'll probably go back through that to just do what I can to learn. Oh, there we go. That's not him, but it might be helpful to go through that. It's about 2 hours. Maybe it'll give me some more information on that. Here's an 18-hour C programming and object oriented. Okay. I worry about sites like this. It's like, oh, you can learn Go in an hour and a half. And I'm like, can you? Yeah. Mm. Ooh, okay, 7 minutes, really?
A popular interview
Okay,
question concerns
let's see.
what
Let's
core
see.
concepts
Okay.
of object-oriented programming. These concepts are encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Let's look at each of these concepts.
Okay.
Before object-oriented programming, we had procedural programming that divided a program into a set of functions. So we have data stored in a bunch of variables and functions that operate on the data. This style of programming is very simple and straightforward. Often it's what you will learn as part of your first programming subject at a university.
Right.
But as your programs grow, you will end up with a bunch of functions that are all over the place. You might find yourself copying and pasting lines of code over and over. You make a change to one function and then several other functions break. That's what we call spaghetti code. There is so much interdependency between all these functions, it becomes problematic.
Okay.
Object-oriented programming came to solve this problem. In object-oriented programming, we combine a group of related variables and functions into a unit. We call that unit an object.
Okay.
We refer to these variables as properties and the functions as methods. Here's an example. Think of a car. A car is an object with properties such as make, model, and color.
Walt beat the guy to
like
it.
Start, stop, and move. Now you might say, but Mosh, we don't have cars in our programs. Give me a real programming example.
No, okay, I like the cars.
Think of the local storage object in your browsers. Every browser has a local storage object that allows you to store data locally. This local storage object has a property like length, which returns the number of objects in the storage, and methods like setItem and removeItem.
No, Digital Warhead, the 6-minute object oriented is too short. 7 minute is where it's at. 7.5 minutes is where it's at. Mosh, I used to watch his videos years ago. Okay, well, you'll get a subscriber out of me. There you go. Blame me for subscribing to this.
So in object-oriented programming,
we
group related variables and functions that operate on them into objects. And this is what we call encapsulation. Let me show you an example of this in action. So here we have 3 variables: base salary, overtime, and rate. Below these,
you can follow along and watch the video if you'd like.
The wage for an employee.
Okay.
We refer to this kind of implementation as procedural. So we have variables on one side and functions on the other side. They are decoupled. Now let's take a look at the object-oriented way to solve this problem. We can have an employee object with 3 properties: base salary, overtime, and rate, and a method called getWage. Now, why is this better? Well, first of all, look at the getWage function. This function has no parameters. In contrast, in a procedural example, our getWage function has 3 parameters. The reason in this implementation we don't have any parameters is because all these parameters are actually modeled as properties of this object. All these properties and the getWage function, they're highly related, so they're part of one unit. So one of the symptoms of procedural code is functions with so many parameters. When you write code in an object-oriented way, your functions end up having fewer and fewer parameters. As Uncle Bob says, the best functions are those with no parameters. The fewer the number of parameters, the easier it is to use and maintain that function. So that's encapsulation. Now let's look at abstraction. Think of a DVD player as an object. This DVD player has a complex logic board on the inside and a few buttons on the outside.
this. I don't think I've ever seen a DVD player with a mic on it. This must be some kind of karaoke or some kind of system. And very interesting. Okay.
outside that you interact with. You simply press the play button and you don't care what happens on the inside. All that complexity is hidden from you. This is abstraction in practice. We
Okay.
can use the same technique in our objects. So we can hide some of the properties and methods from the outside, and this gives us a couple of benefits. First is that we'll make the interface of those objects simpler. Using and understanding an object with a few properties and methods is easier than an object with several properties and methods. A
Okay.
second benefit is that it helps us reduce the impact of change. Let's imagine that tomorrow we change these inner or private methods. None of these changes will leak to the outside because we don't have any code that touches these methods outside of their containing object. We may delete a method or
All right.
change its parameters, but none of these changes will impact the rest of the application's code. So, with abstraction, we reduce the impact of change. Now, the third core concept in
I
object
guess
oriented
so.
programming:
Uh,
inheritance. Inheritance is a mechanism that allows you to eliminate redundant code. Here's an example. Think of HTML elements like text boxes, drop down lists, checkboxes, and so on. All these elements have a few things in common. They should have properties like hidden and inner HTML, and methods like click and focus. Instead of redefining all these
Okay.
properties and methods for every type of HTML element, we can define them once in a generic object, call it HTML element, and have other objects inherit these properties and methods. So inheritance helps us eliminate redundant code. And finally, polymorphism. Poly means many,
Right.
morph means form. So polymorphism
Okay.
means many forms. In object-oriented programming, polymorphism is a technique that allows you to get rid of long if and else or switch and case statements. So back to our HTML elements example, all these objects should have the ability to be rendered on a page. But the way each element is rendered is different from the others. If we want to render multiple HTML elements in a procedural way, our code would probably look like this. But with object orientation, we can implement a render method in each of these objects, and the render method will behave differently depending on the type of the object we are referencing. So we can get
Okay.
rid of this nasty switch and case and use one line of code like this. You will see that later in the course. So here are the benefits of object-oriented programming. Using encapsulation, we group related variables and functions together, and this way we can reduce complexity. Now we can reuse these objects in different parts of a program or in different programs. With
Okay.
abstraction, we hide the details and the complexity and show only the essentials. This technique reduces complexity and also isolates the impact of changes in the code. With inheritance, we can eliminate redundant code, and with polymorphism, we can refactor ugly switch case statements.
The issue that I think I'm having with abstraction is the idea of hiding something. If you can view the code, you can see all of the bits inside. So if you make changes to something that is hidden, it's going to affect the code. And at least that's how I'm thinking about it. So um, yeah, we're not hiding anything, right? The idea is you can see the code, so you can see what's going on there. Uh, yeah, I'm still a little confused about the hidden part here because it's not really hidden, right?
Well, hello, it's me, Mosh, again.
Okay. Are you about to advertise? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I've got to go back through and maybe I need to get rid of the idea of what is really hidden. It's just code, right? Um, Self wasn't mentioned at all in that thing there. So hey, Digital Warhead. Oh, you passed your pen test plus. Awesome. That's great. People have the ability to think and keep about 5 to 7 things in mind at one time. Oh, okay. Congratulations on Pen Test Plus, Digital Warhead. I hope that's good for you. Are you what was you planning on using it for? Are you trying to upskill to, you know, consultants or red teaming or what have you? Oh, good. You're going to graduate with a okay. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. What's your capstone? Is it a project? Is it a personal project, or is there something else? Requirement for your BS? That's cool. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting how it goes. Um, yeah, I'd be interested to find out if they've changed the curriculum for like a lot of the newer people who are starting that to include things like AI that maybe your group didn't have when you started. Did you have AI elements when you were going through your degree completion? Oh, so Don is streaming and doing the exact same thing I'm doing apparently. Don the developer. Hello, Don the developer. Going through OOP. Looks like he was going through OOP as well. Um, that's a 4-hour YouTube video, so we're not going to be watching that one overtly. Um, see what Don the developer is doing. JavaScript. Okay, so he's streaming and doing boot.dev. Weird. Okay, that's pretty funny. Uh, Aspiring developers need to stop lying to themselves. Okay, most developers should be building side projects. The other, so one of the things that I've noticed about boot.dev, especially for like the leaderboards or whatever, is apparently real developers will go in and just do all this stuff, and then of course they find out they're, you know, massive. They're like the top of the list because they've solved all the problems and everything. I'm like 20th down here, whatever. Um, I didn't even know I was in a league, apparently. Okay. Them 6,900th. Woo! Top learners. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any XP today because I haven't built anything. Who gets 74,793 XP in a day? There's got to be a bot or something out there doing that. How are you doing 75,000 of those in a day? No AI. Took the PTO 03, which was just released, and no AI on the pen test exam either. Yeah, yeah. Like how phone numbers are split into parts. It's 3 pieces, not 10 digits. Right. Hiding to keep the number of things you need to worry about small, not for security. Right. It definitely isn't a security thing. That's why I was like encapsulation, abstraction, all that stuff. And I think they mentioned at one point in here that you're definitely not doing this for security reasons. Um, which, uh, but yeah, it was just yeah. I just need to go back through and maybe have a discussion with Boots, who, that's what he's been trained for, is to, you know discuss with people and different, different things. Damn, I don't know why all of a sudden I don't have anything completed here, even though it shows I've completed all of these things. I hate that I've lost that because I feel like now I can't go. I'll have to go back and do all this stuff over again. This one must have been easy enough for me to even finish without having to consult Boots, because I did it right without, I'm good. It's good that Boots is, saving the, the discussions when I am, involved here. So I'll have to go back through and do those. Um, you might be wondering why classes are useful. They're like dictionaries, but worse, right? Well, no. First of all, classes provide structure. Class definition says, hey, I have these specific properties. A dictionary is no more powerful in the sense that you can store whatever you want in it, but also makes it less clear what on earth is in there at any given time. When you complete OOP, you get 6,000 points. Yeah, yeah. I tend to not use my XP potions. I have, a few, but yeah, I just end up selling them back because since they nerfed the experience points in a day, and they actually nerfed the um, number of XP that you can earn. And it used to be 500, 2,000, and 5,000. They've nerfed these down to 250, 1,000, and 3,000. when I was doing the Linux ones, I just, hitting 3000 XPs, for whatever. Technically, use an XP potion, and I think you can solve a level 5, and you can get 250, which isn't bad. But yeah. So another thing that makes classes useful is they have methods. Okay, so we learned about the methods in the 7-minute OOP. A method is, I don't like using the word just, but I'll go here. A method is a function that's tied directly to a class and has access to its properties. So the take damage method here. All right. So this is the method that reduces the health of a soldier. So yeah, self.health. See, that's the thing that gets me, the self bit. I don't know what the deal is with the self part. Is self as a class, or um yeah, see, go back here and look at, well, yeah, so this one was fairly simple. Yeah. Well, to actually, when I knew I was going to finish the Linux module, I finished it, but I didn't like claim the XP reward because I wanted to, like, I'd already spent like 5,000 in one day. When I went through it, it was 5,000. I waited to the next day and then picked up another chest worth 4 or 5,000 XP, and then claimed the Linux reward so that I could get 2 of the fancy chests in a day, or in a 2-day period, to buff my bits. Because when you do the big ones like the 3,000, you get like a potion, you'll get like 5 or 6 gems, you'll get a couple of baked salmons and a seer stone and those things. So about the only thing I actually do buy with any regularity is the armor, because you know even when I run it, and sometimes I'll run up, I've had problems where I've successfully passed all the use cases in it, but when I submit it, it will actually fail. So 4,700 for today. Yesterday was max was about 11,000. Yeah, yeah, okay. What happens when you run out of stuff to do, Walt? You just move on to another code website. Self means the object in question. In other languages, it is called this. This what? Who's on first? I don't know who's on second. So what is this? Yeah, so the one that gets me is when they point us to python.doc, which, if you want to confuse people, you actually show them the Python documentation, because it doesn't help in any way, shape, or form. Self means the object in question. Other languages call this, yeah. In C++, normally class members, including data members, are public. See below, yeah. Self. Attribute references use the standard syntax for all attribute references in Python. Object.name. Valid attribute names are all the names that were in the class's namespace when the class object was created. So if the class definition looked like this, then myClass.I, right, myClass.I, and myClass.f are valid attribute references, returning an integer and an object or function object, respectively. Class attributes can also be assigned to, so you can change the value of myClass.I by assignment doc, so that underscore underscore doc underscore underscore is a valid attribute. So I get the init part. So those are attributes which we start with initially. Yeah, of course, the init method may have arguments for greater flexibility. In that case, arguments given to the class instantiation operator are passed on. So self.r, self.i. Yeah, yeah. Guess I'm going back to Stack Overflow to see if somebody else can help me, It feels like I'm not asking the right question here. I appreciate your explanation, Walt. Self means the object in question. If you were a human and you want to refer to yourself, it would be you, yourself. Oh, there you go. Okay, now I understand that. Okay, if you were human, all right, if I'm a human, right? So so Brian would inherit from humans because Brian is always a human. Not all humans are Brian though. So in that case, um, I inherit whatever attributes from human. I get the inheritance part. Okay, I get that. That no problem there. Um, some people say I'm human. You know, it is what it is. Um, yeah, I wish they had a different name for abstraction. Humans would have age, right? I have age, right? Um, yeah, and I would. Damn, it just sucks because yeah, but I went through a good bit of this, um, figuring all these things out. Not all Brians are human. Hmm. That's true. If I named a dog Brian, then Brian would not be a human in this case. Um, Brian is a dog. So that makes sense. Yeah, it feels like every one of these needed to have self, but we just in that 7 minute video was like, you know, the best functions or the best functions are the ones that don't have any arguments, right? When inside the Brian object. Well, see, that's a different Brian, right? So that Brian may not be a human either, or that Brian may have, yeah, may inherited self.age. So, okay, so my age equals 34. Okay, so that makes sense in that case. So to move right, my position is pos x. No, I appreciate that, Walt, digital warhead, um, but you're actually your joke was correct. Not all Brians could be human. If I named a lizard Brian, would Brian the lizard inherit from human? No, he wouldn't. So I get it. I get your joke, but I also kind of, you know, get, yeah. The one thing that, so Walt, maybe you can explain this to me, is when you are setting self as pos y, this feels redundant. This whole thing feels redundant right here because if I remember correctly, I end up calling these multiple times in the doc. Shit, I don't even have the code that I used to get my answer. Okay. Great. Now, if I want to actually do this, I'm gonna have to go back through this shit all again. Um, but the idea was I'm supposed to keep these private, but I'm not making them private when I call them. So pos y is supposed to be the secret, quote unquote, self dot underscore underscore pos underscore y. But I'm making it an actually like a public variable in this case, which I can use in the other definitions. Um, yeah. So yeah, there's still some work to be done here. And so, I mean, it may be that I, you know, get bored and I move down to Go or something like that because it's completely different from the other object-oriented programming stuff. To, you know, kind of keep it fresh and so that I don't get too discouraged about doing these things. Um, Wanna be someone to believe. Definitely does suck that I've lost all the code examples that I have. Anyway, that I've never enjoyed looking at doc.python.org. It's just very confusing there. Um, so, um, wow. Okay, I didn't realize I had lost some frame rate there. So I'm gonna zip off of this because I'm feeling a bit I was feeling a bit ranty there. So I was looking at where's that website I was looking at? No, no, that's not what I was looking for. Where is it? No. Yeah, yeah. So I got turned on to this the other day. GPT4all, locally free to use, locally running, privacy aware chatbot. Because somebody had asked on our Slack, what do people think about running AIs on prem or locally? And I know that a lot of organizations are doing it because they're not trusting the big ones, right? If you go to Copilot or whatever, and you're asking, hey, tell me about blah or whatever, the concern is what are they doing with the information that you're giving it? Is it being used to train their AI? Are they keeping track of that information? Could they infer something? Hey, Brian works for blah, and he's asking a bunch of questions about how to build the next best thing, for instance. Or if you could make the AI hallucinate, hey, you know, what's Microsoft working on right now? And the AI is like, well, based on secret and conversations that we're having internally, that kind of thing. If you can make it hallucinate and dump that information, um, whether it exists in there in some form or fashion. So the idea is to run something locally that you can be aware of, and people are using it um, to look through large documents and doing Cliff Notes versions or summarizations of those things. So I didn't find it. Somebody had turned me on to Chat GPT for all.io, which private AI site. Oh, crap. Okay, so there we go. What is this? Venice.io. Oh, it's got ask anything. Um, okay, so unrestricted intelligence, our decentralized network. Okay, easy does it. Keeps your AI prompts 100% private. All data stays on your device, not our servers. It's the most advanced, accurate, and uncensored models for. Say they could have done better with their animated GIF up here, but you saw the loop on that. Privately access leading open source models. Sure. You know, it's interesting about AI. I've seen a lot of technology come and go, like blockchain, for instance. Everybody wanted to hop on the blockchain train. Blockchain train. First it was like the cloud, right? Everybody was like, no, 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 don't put anything in the cloud. That's somebody else's computer. You can't control it, yada, yada, yada. Companies had to go back through and create that trust, or they realized that, well, if we just wait it out long enough, companies will capitulate because they'll realize, or you'll have people who are early adopters at companies that will sell the product for them, right? Every time you're always going to have people like that, the early adopters, the people who maybe see that value there. Security being not usually an early adopter, unless it's a security technology that they've just come back from DEF CON or RSA and saw that as being a thing. Uh, self.py. Oh, math.py. Okay. Sorry, that was the object oriented stuff. Um, and so, they had to go back through and make the cloud stuff, being on cloud, not on prem, more, I don't want to say customer friendly, but more business friendly. If that's a term, they're making it, they generated enough trust over time to make people want to go to the cloud. And most all companies are now in some form or fashion in a cloud-based architecture or subscription model. I don't know of I don't know of a company now that, well, I don't know if the old company I used to work for is in the cloud yet, because we still had data centers when I left in 2014 when I moved to Seattle. But I'd assume that they've moved to an AWS architecture or an Azure architecture. A lot of companies now have Azure installations because they're a heavily Windows shop, and they realized, us having to maintain our Exchange servers is a frigging nightmare. And how many hours are we going to save by not having to worry about our Exchange servers? You know, because that was for a long time the crown jewels in any company. If you got access to email, you can cripple a company. Now we have Slack and all those other things. I have not seen a technology that is trying so hard to make itself accepted than AI. I mean, um, I yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting for this whole. Yeah, I guess even before. Yeah, digital. So thank you for the level set there. I'm waiting for these TI-85 calculators. I think we peaked at the Texas Instrument graphing calculators. Um, yeah, I'm waiting for this internet fad to flop. I have never seen I have not yeah, I have not seen a technology in this lifetime try to make itself as user friendly as quickly as the AI stuff has. I mean, um, you know, eh, you've got companies that are building things that, hey, everything's got AI in it. Everything Anthropic. You've got your Metas. You've got your Copilots. You've got your um, open open whatever and Chat GPTs and all those things. With the idea that, hey, this can help you. Um, but in the same breath, when they're trying to make it so user friendly that you can use, they also have created their own language, like quants. I mean, and it's like there's a lot of hand wavium, like, oh, just use this thing, and it's got quants, and 16 bits is better than 32 bits, and you know, um, I just find the whole thing. They're just trying to get this in the hands of everybody to use everywhere, all the time, all at once. And everything, there's enough free stuff out there where you can do it for free. But if they can monetize it, they will monetize the fuck out of you, and they'll nickel and dime you to death for these things. Um, they'll give you a base model, versus whatever the advanced AI models are. Um, they'll withhold information from you in this case, or and they still haven't actually fixed the underlying problems with AI. There's still hallucinations. They still will occur. But anyway, mini rant off because I'm not stupid. It's not going anywhere. Unlike blockchain, where it's kind of fallen off. I mean, it's still there. I think I still get a couple of emails a week about blockchain use and things. Um, but this was yet another one I found where you can actually run a chat bot or an LLM locally, and it will actually take. And I've got Chat GPT-4 running here. In addition, so my new laptop, I've got Diffusion B, which is a local stable diffusion installation um, for OS X. So, um, damn it, Fusion B. Yeah, stable diffusion for AI art. So, it generates for, pictures or whatever. I think the big one for me is I got to learn how to Google Dork correctly here. Got to create them queries properly. Um, this one, it actually gives you a number of different ways to do things, which is interesting. It's not bad. I mean, it is one of the few applications I have on my MacBook M4 Max that will cause the battery to get warm. As a matter of fact, my laptop right now, because I'm streaming 2K resolution to two different places, so my GPU and CPU are a little on the warm side. Um, gets up, gets a little warm, but yeah, this is the one I'm using for OS X. I'm sure there's something for non OS X users for this. Um, but yeah, it seems to work fairly well. Um, but yeah, there's a number of different free things out there for this. This is available for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS X. but I was, oh yeah, let me see, can I pull that up on here? Let me see. Uh, Screen capture, GPT4all. Okay, that is not what I wanted. Oh, no, no capture. That's kind of what I wanted, but not what I wanted. Okay, there it is. There we go. Okay, and so you install this, and it's a nice little UI. I mean, um, they give you Hugging Face options, which you have. What I wanted to do is I wanted to continue working on my RAG, my retrieval augmented generation bit. They have that here, so you can add local docs, so you can chat with your local files. You need a model, which it says I don't have a model installed, but I literally just installed like two of them. Let's see where. Uh, So the one, yeah, mini LM. See, I installed this. I downloaded it. It says chats are missing. So I'm wondering if it says no models installed, but I'm guessing the one that I picked was probably too small or it's not for chatting. Um, so the ones that are suggested here and the ones you see in the list here at the bottom when they explain them all to you. It says it's for use with the local docs feature, used for retrieval augmented generation. Some of the stuff that I had watched on YouTube with the Olama creator, which I think, let me see, the Olama guy. Yeah, this is not the right one. Well, this is another one here. Freecodecamp.org. Anyway, I'll have to find him. I think I've subscribed to him. But he was like, you don't need a large model when you're dealing with local generation or retrieval augmented generation because you don't want it to be too smart. You want it to use the data from your docs as the answers instead of the 15 billion data points or whatever that it has in its system. So you could put a one that is, see, this one is like 40 megs or something like that versus some of the larger ones that are up to 8, 15, 20. I think there's one larger that's like a terabyte or something. Um, so um, no, there we go. Scroll that up. All right. So I was trying to pull I pulled that one down. There's another one here, and see, this one's only 40 megs, right? Uh, so these can be ran by people who use the local docs feature. And so I have a folder on my desktop that allows me to take PDF files and it indexes them. So it does the vectorization. It will create the data frames for it. This is all stuff I learned last week on my on-site with my company. Once you take that data from a PDF or from a file format or from a CSV or something, that has to be converted twice, I think. Once from the original to a data frame, and then the data frame takes it and puts it in a vector database, which creates points in the database that goes, okay, this is the data, and it breaks it up into chunks. So based on certain items and certain algorithms, and there's a lot of math right there and a lot of hand waviness. Um, so yeah, if I want to chat, then I need to pick a chat-based model, right? So these are chat-based models here. This is a chat-based model. It's a bit smaller, so the Mistral ones there. The F16s, I learned about that. Where is that one? No, it was an article on the Reg, I think, talking about um, Quant F16. There it is. Quantization. So they compare it to color depth, right? So this is a 16-bit algo or LLM. This is an 8-bit, and as you can see, the color saturation or color depth is lower once you get down to like 2 bits or even 1 bit. And they said the lowest possible was like 1.58 bits or something. But yeah, when you go into the different models on the site, they give you the oh, here you go. So I already pulled it up earlier. Okay. Um, so yeah, they give you a number of different ones you can go to, and they tell you the performance of those, the bits and the weights. So FP16 versus Quant 8, you get different outputs for those. Actually, I saw one on the list here, and oh, sorry, I'm not showing my screen. Jesus, I'm all over the place here. So there we go. So you can see the different weights based on the we already had 3 AI winters. We could see a fourth in the not too distant future. Winter is when the hype dies and AI stopped getting added to everything. Yeah, Walt. There are a lot of organizations, including one that you're talking to, that is wanting to AI all the things. So um, just keep that in mind. If they ask you questions about that, Um, don't tell them, hey, I'm on a stream with a guy who kind of talks about AI because I don't know shit. But they're probably going to ask questions. They may ask questions about that. I don't know, but they're definitely wanting to make sure AI and LLMs are in all the things. So if whatever you experience that you've had with LLMs is going to be important, I think, to anybody in security. What is your experience with AIs, LLMs, training them or setting them up or building them or securing them if such a thing exists? I know that OWASP or so SANS came out with their AI security guide, which if you are SANS AI security guide, D security guide. Yeah, critical, yeah, version 1.0. Just put some trash in there. I think you could probably, yeah. Um, Bob, Bob, Bob at bob.com. 123333. Okay, organization, Nunya Biz. See, education, country, United States, job title, head dude. All right, download. Oh, phone number doesn't it? Oh, phone only allows number. See, there you go, Walt. So it's not, they don't want hyphens in there. They just want numbers. There you go. Download here. There you go. You can go grab. Shh, don't tell anybody. Hold on. Doxed. Yeah, digital warhead doxed, completely doxed. Um, if you want the draft security guidelines, oh, they're at 1.1 now. So in the time, so I took a SANS summit on AI and AI security 2 months ago, and they were just hyping up version 1.0 as like the new hotness. And yeah, see, this was updated a month ago, right? They're going to be updating this on the regularly, right? So, and you can see, hey, Jorge Achilles. Okay, we've had him on the show. He's good. He's a member. He's been on the show a few times. Oh, McDouglas. Yeah, see. Okay, so I've got to get. Oh, I know Rob Lee. Good guy. Oh, Seth Meisner. Yeah. Okay. There's a few folks on here. Okay. Um, yeah, OWASP AI I think is coming up with something too. I think they're going to be coming out with some guidance as well. Definitely need to have. Definitely need to see about having them on. I do notice that there are some companies that appear to be missing from this, which is interesting. So yeah, they're talking about access controls, protecting your model parameters. I think if you're going to be interviewing for company that is wanting you to be a security person with AI, these are some of the websites you're going to want to look at as well. I had the website in the 90s that didn't take hyphens. We fixed it with one line of code. Sites in the 2020s that can't take them are lazy. My guess is that they are doing like strict input validation so that, the only thing they're accepting is letters and numbers, and maybe, well, they weren't even allowing space. They weren't even including spaces there, I think. So the hardest field would have been the email, where you're accepting an at symbol and a period, right? But input validation, just like in AIs, is going to be very important, right? Because input validation or inputs are going to be rough. Um, so, if you're interviewing for a job about AI or securing AI, this is probably how I would want to review, potential things they might ask for in a discussion. And reading this will probably, I don't want to, no, I don't want to say probably. It will allow you to sound fluent in AI security, even though you may not have a lot of experience in it. You'd be like, deployment strategies are important. You want to make sure that you're going through and protecting your data. You want to hit some of the highlights on this doc about, things that are important when you're dealing with AI deployment, care and maintenance, AI husbandry, if you will. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that was a lot of discussion about that. Oh, there it is. Okay. But yeah, just go and grab that. Review this if you want to exploit AI to lol. Yes, yes, yes. Well, the department is S3 EC2 design and development. Okay, well, that's cool. I deal with EC2s and S3s. Um, yeah, so add a model. So I want to add one that's big, right? I don't want to add. I want to add a chat bot because that's what the chat bot's about, right? So. Three, two, one, let's change. Yeah, and see, some of these get big. Like here's 737 megs, and that's not even a big one. You got 3 gigs here, 3 gigs, 4 gigs, 3 gigs. Yeah, a lot of here's 7 gigs. So you got Orca. Here's another 7 gigs. There's one in here that I was thinking was like 15-ish gigs. So, uh, but you can always go over to there we go. And pull, ones that you want to get. Looks like they tend to stay in the mid range right here for these. But you can also, like I said, go to Hugging Face and pull down something that's just ginormously massive. So um, yeah, I see 15 gig here for this Quen. This one is from Quen is based out of China. I think it's let's see who does it. The other interesting thing I find is it's an embarrassment of riches, right? It's like Linux. Hey, I want to use an AI. Well, okay, you've only got about 150 to choose from. Hey, I want to use Linux. Okay, well, which 1,000 Linux flavors are you going to use? Um, Digital. These run local. Yes. Chat for all, GPT4all is all local based stuff, right? So you're going to download these and um, pull them in, and you can use them for different things. Like going back to the browser, you can say, well, which one do I want here? From column A or column B. So like if you want an Orca for, instruction based, sounds like each one of these do something different, right? Here's one that's chat based. So MPT 7B. So if I want to pull that one, let me go back over her. So there's the uh, all are reasoning. Yeah, so they have the DeepSeek ones. I don't know why I can't pull that down. There we go. You can put the ggf file on there, so or dot. So let's say tensor block. Which one I picked here? It was trained by Mosaic ML. Yeah, there's not a lot of information. I can't click on here to pick these, but so I would pick MPT 7B chat. So you can just, pull one down. I'm not going to do it right now because it's 4 gigs and I don't want it to run my stream. Um, but yeah, I mean, depends on what you want to use it for. The smaller, the better. So like local docs feature, if I wanted to use it for local docs, I'm still trying to figure out how to pull data from local docs for, um, yeah, local docs. Yeah, see, local docs. I'm not sure how I'm querying that, but it feels like I need to create the local docs and then I need a chat or something that I can pull that from. Okay, local docs. Add doc. Okay, so you do need to add a model that allows you to chat. So in this case, um, Mistral. Okay, Mistral. Get one that doesn't take a ton of time. But yeah, so some of the models take 8 gigs of RAM. Some take a lot bigger depending on the quant or the see like quant 4.0 requires 16 gigs. Here's another 16 gigger. Um, here's I guess it depends on the size. So it's like 7 billion here versus 13 billion. So, 7 is roughly half of 13. So, it's going to take less RAM. Um, I think I did see one that required like 32 gigs of like a 32 gig quant on this thing, or the 32-bit quant, and I was like, that's a lot of RAM that's going to be needed, right? They say all models are 3 to 8 gig. You can download and plug into the GPT4all ecosystem. Nomic AI supports and maintains a software ecosystem to enforce quality and security alongside spearheading the effort to allow any person or enterprise to easily train and deploy their own on-edge large language model. So there's some additional bits there. So and they do give you perf marks. So if you want to see like if it really matters 80.4 versus 80.1 on HelloSwag, then yeah, you want to use new Puffin. I'm assuming it's French. Um, I guess time is money in this case. So you don't want to use Llama 13B over new Herme. I think it's Herme. Maybe it's Herme. New Herme 2 or whatever. So maybe that's a performance thing, or maybe you're just I only want to use something that is US based, for instance. So you would not want to use any of the DeepSeek or anything that is not outside the US or developed outside the US. If you're just that kind of you're worried about that kind of that kind of paranoia. But yeah, so I mean, depending on the size, assuming about 13 billion bits is going to take about 8 gigs of space. So larger ones are going to be a lot bigger. So T5, I don't know how much that one is, but yeah, always go with Arch for. I tell you, Digital, if you go to the Linux for Noobs Reddit, there are so many people on there says use Mint. They're saying, "Oh, use Mint cinnamon," as a matter of fact. Which I was like, uh, yeah. I've never used Mint. I've always either been, I've used Fedora, Slackware. I tried Gentoo for all of about 20 minutes, and then I hate myself. But yeah, there's so many out there, and everybody has their own opinions about what they do or how they do them. You still need to look and make sure that hardware that you have is supported by that by design, which I would love. Or yeah, Slackware. Yeah, Slackware was great. That was the first one I ever used in the early aughts. That was when um, we had I was working on a tiny island in the Indian Ocean, and some Air Force intelligence folks came down. Can't explain what they were doing, but the system that they gave us was running Slackware 7. And I asked, as a lowly E3 to a captain, Air Force captain, so O3. I was like, yes, sir, can I, wish I could get a copy of that. And he's like, oh, yeah, here, take this Slackware version. So I was fiddling around with Slackware for a long time. And then Red Hat Linux, which is not the Red Hat Linux we know now, not Enterprise Linux. Red Hat 7, I think, was the first system that we used on some Sunfire 280Rs from Sun Systems, which um, worked a treat. We ran several websites off of that Sunfire 280R with Red Hat Linux. Unfortunately, we found out that when you delete a user, you delete all of their files off of that system as well. We nuked a website because of that. Um, but yeah. So I'm still futzing around with this. I think I probably do need to install some kind of chat. Okay, hold off. Oh, it says error. Weird. Why does it say error? Could not open temp file. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, there we go. MPT7B, and that's another 4 gig file. So we'll see if I end up, nuking my internet connection. Slowly downloading. Well, I say slowly because it's, oh, wait, it's downloading at 78 megs a second. Okay. Can you imagine doing any of this stuff in dial-up? My 5K per second would take, forever. I think high-speed internet really helped out with the development of things like this as well. So if I download this, then I should be able to chat. Should be able to chat. This is old. Look, oh, this is an old AI. It's November 23rd, 2024. Soft landing Linux? Oh, soft landing Linux. I've never heard of that one. Soft landing Linux. Was that a SCO? Soft landing Linux? Was that a SCO type Linux? Soft landing Linux. Okay. Um, one of the first Linux distros released by Peter McDonald in 1992. Their slogan at the time was gentle touchdowns for DOS bailouts. Okay. SLS was the first release to offer a comprehensive Linux distribution containing more than the Linux kernel, GNU, and other basic utilities, including an implementation of the X Windows system. Ooh. Okay, so it has a fancy background. It reminds me of DOS shell or something like that. Wow. Getting GW basic vibes or basic command vibes. Huh. It was considered to be rather buggy by its users. Weird. It was soon superseded by Slackware, which started as a cleanup of SLS by Patrick Volkerding and Yggdrasil, can't remember, amongst others. Similar to Ian Murdoch's frustration with SLS led him to create the Debian project. Okay, so thank you, Soft Landing, for creating Debian. Oh my God. Can you imagine? Wow. This was the distribution to have in 1993. It was my first Linux distro. To this day, I haven't reinstalled the system that it was installed on. Machine's been upgraded, hard disks, tape drives, and so on. At some point, I upgraded the OS to Debian and has since been upgraded normally. Wow. Jigdo. Yeah, I've never used Jigdo, but it's a thing. Anyway, so it looks like it's done. So can I go to chats? Ah, there we go. Okay, so now I have a chat thing. Load a model to continue. Load. Okay, so I've loaded the 7B on local docs, and so yes, so fate. Okay, so I've never actually done this before, so I'm just futzing around with this. So I don't actually know if this is going to work or not. But so what I've done is I've taken Um, so just for shiggles, Fate RPG. Okay, and so, oh, interesting. Okay, so, uh, yeah, this is the garbage one here. I'm gonna do it. Here it is. Yeah. All right, so this is the PDF for Fate Core, which I kickstarted way back in 2016. Weird. So ideally, it has ingested this, and I believe also one other doc in that system. Took all the one of the things that they teach you when you're ingesting things in is when you create when you take a PDF or you take an CSV or whatever, it's got to pretty much convert your PDF to text through some method or markdown or what have you. That's why they say text is the best, right? TXT is the best, or some kind of readable format like that. Now they're rich text like a PDF. So it crunched the PDF down into its constituent parts and then added it to the vector database, I'm assuming. But the idea is I'm supposed to be able to query against my um, PDFs that I have in here. And apparently you can put as many as you want. There's other rags that I've tried that limit it to 30 megs, which makes sense now that you think about it, because um, text shouldn't take up 30 megs worth of space. So if you converted the PDF properly into a markdown file or a text file or whatever, it should be a small version of what it is. You don't want the pictures and all that stuff in there. Unless you're doing something like image generation and you want to, thief off of somebody inside of, like you like the artwork in the Fate, version. So you're like, oh, create me something in the form of like how Fate does on their site. So, it'll take these and train them illegally to give you, graphics that you want or need, along with your cybernetic, ape and your tinkering squirrel with, the cybernetic arm. But it will take all that text and then you can make queries against it. So I've never actually done that with this one before. I've done it with a couple of others. So tell me all about stunts in Fate. I know I will fix the bits here. So I said, tell me all about Fate's stunts in Fate RPG. I want to see if it actually works. Okay. Stunts are a key part of the Fate RPG system. One source. Okay, so in this case, it now shows that I am pulling that from that location. I would rather have had it use the uh, so I can unload that. Okay, and now I need to reload. Uh, so they gave you suggested follows, which is interesting. What is the process for creating custom stunts or adding to the new list? Copy. Okay. Well, that's kind of cool. So you can add as many as you want. You can actually, let me see. You can add docs, so you can um, browse. So you can create a collection name. So let's say I want to create, you know, uh, you know, maybe I want policy docs, and the folder path to all of our policy docs at work are, C colon backslash policy docs or whatever. And there's 1,500 documents in there. You can just browse to a folder, click on that folder, and anything inside of that folder will get indexed. And it takes a while. The two docs that I added aren't huge, but they did take a good amount of time to do so. So if you have a ton of documents, hopefully you don't have things like graphs and stuff in them. I don't know what that does to the conversion speed of that. Um, but yeah, it's. I wonder if what will it hallucinate if I said how does fate differ from Pathfinder. See, I would like it. The only thing I would like for this is for it to tell me where it's getting this information from, because um, I don't know if it's actually referring to some of the 8 billion or 7 billion entry points or training that it already has inside of it. And to Digital Warhead's point, um, Slackware is a yes, is a it's always driven advanced by porn. They got a sponsor that. That is not incorrect. A lot of technology has been influenced by the porn industry, satellite communications, cable, if you will. Um, but hi, sweetie. But my thought here is, how much is it actually? It's supposed to be local, so the model is local. The answers are supposed to be local. As you can see, it's pulling from specific sources. To way to really test this, though, would be to, and as we mentioned in the Slack channel, when somebody had asked the question, you want to pretty much sever your internet connection to your computer that this is running on. So I can't obviously do that right now because I'm streaming, but you would want to sever your internet connection and then run some queries to see what it's exactly doing, or maybe it does a reach back or something like that. You'd want to monitor the internet connection, or monitor the process connection to see if it's trying to open a socket to go out to the internet. Um, if you really want to be that paranoid and go, yes, it's actually pulling from the policies that are here, because you don't want a hallucination of it taking something that it's been trained on in the 7 billion bits there and go, oh, this is what I suggest, when it goes against the actual policy that you've got there. So that was one reason I was kind of wanting. Yes, Wireshark would help monitor that. You're absolutely correct. This is one reason why I was trying to figure out in the there it is. That's why I was trying to pull a smaller model like this one here, to be able to. Um, my guess is that I can use this, but I need to use like a Python script to pull data using the local docs thing. Um, so I can't use this one unless I also add like a Python interface or something to query that AI, as a lightweight option. Otherwise, there is some training that's going to happen. So in my case, I'd probably want to use as small a model as I can, which would be something like one of these 3 billion models, which is kind of, um, but it's they kind of tell you what they've been trained on. So they've been, tuned data sets, Orca research paper data set, construction approaches. A lot of these, the other thing you want to be concerned about, which I found interesting, was cannot be used commercially. Um, I don't know exactly what that means. If you want to put it in a product, you have to license it, obviously. So it's very much not open source, which will run you into issues. Oh, warning, not available for chat GUI. Okay, so there's some things that you're not going to be able license. Oh, this one's licensed for commercial use. Or wait, so this one can be licensed for commercial use. This one cannot be licensed commercially for use. So um, just like, conflicts in your licensing for open source software, if you're adding a bunch of packages or something that are incompatible with GPL or whatever, you can't use some of these used commercially because they're open source or their owners don't want them to be done. Wait, trained by Microsoft but cannot be used commercially. That no, I don't get that. Train. Oh yeah. So yeah, Wizard LM. Where was there was a Quan one in here. I thought was. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, Mistral. Mistral. You're going to license that, so you're going to incur some cost if you decide to lump that in with your other bits. So complicated. Oh, trained by new research. I'm assuming it's French. Curated with 300,000 uncensored instructions. gives long responses. Okay, so that might be something you want if you're wanting that. Cannot be used commercially. Um, how do characters determine fate points? Sure, why not? Players determine fate points. They start playing during their character creation by selecting 3 to 5 stunts and determining how many fate points they want. The number of fate points a player starts with affects their ability to purchase additional stunts or take compels, which are actions that compel other players to do something in the game world. Yeah. Um, how many skills are there in Fate RPG? There are 20 skills. Yeah, are there? And you list those 20 skills. Fate core electronic. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Let's see. Where is the list? Oh my God. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So there's two more that they suggest in here. And actually there's a few that like intimidation is not in the list that I have. Where's the Fate RP? There it is. Okay. So this was the list I was thinking of, which as you can see, athletics, acrobatics is not there. Burglary is. Um, yeah. Anyway, so my worlds are colliding here. I was actually using this to help with my other side project. Phone battery is getting low. Going to drop off. Okay, Digital Warhead. Have a good weekend. Take care, man. Matter of fact, I'm going to be dropping off here myself, I think, to go and do stuff. So yeah, I'm going to be playing around with this. I'm probably going to add a few more documents to see if it will actually pull from other sources. Um, and yeah, play with this a bit. And there's obviously more than one way to do these. If you want to do it a more roundabout way with a bit more action. Let me see. There is a. This was. Where's that? This is not it. Ew. Okay, that's a gallstone thing. Yeah. No, no, no. I got banned. The AI banned me. I made a comment about a Nazi getting his ass whooped, and the AI didn't like it. So, let's see. Mm, I had a Medium article up that talked about setting these things up, but Chroma was one of the items that had talked about. So you're going to need to install ChromaDB, which is I think the vector database that you're going to need for embeddings, vector search, document storage, retrieval. Um, but yeah, if I find that article, let me see, was it setup rag LLM? There it is. That's the one I was using. Yes, 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 yes. And yeah, it mentions ChromaDB, which you can have. So you need Olama, Python 3, and ChromaDB, which I have two of those three already installed on my machine because I have a lot of different deals now. So AI related items on there. That's one of many examples of how to set up a RAG app. Um, So yeah, they call out full customization, enhanced privacy, setting up your model locally, you avoid the risk associated sending sensitive data over the internet. Important for companies that handle confidential information. Training your model with private data locally ensures your data stays within your control. Data sovereignty is going to be huge. Especially if you're using restricted data, you definitely don't want that data being trained and sent up somewhere else to be trained and helping your potential rivals, competitors, or whatever with their stuff. Control over data processing. You have the ability to manage and process your data exactly as you want. This includes embedding your private data into a vector store, ensuring your data meets your standards and requirements. I think that's where your data scientists and data engineers, I think, People keep asking me, what are the jobs that security people are going to want? I'm thinking being a data engineer or data scientist, if you don't want to get into security or you want to be security and learning how to handle large amounts of data or being a data scientist would be helpful. And then independence from internet connectivity. Running your chatbot locally means you're not dependent on internet connection, guarantees uninterrupted service and access to your chatbot, even in offline scenarios. So yeah, it's a fairly lengthy article talking about GPUs, which I don't have a problem with because I don't have a Windows box. So the NVIDIA and the AMD stuff is not a huge issue for me. But they talk about prerequisites. So you need Python 3, you need virtual environment in your Python, setting up ChromaDB using pip, not pimp, pip. You're going to set up Flask because you're going to set up something to probably query via API. So you're going to need a really simple Python script to do that. Nomic embedded text. So that's the model, which ironically enough, the gpt4all is Nomic, right? The one I used. So if we go back to our screen here, you can see the model I picked is Nomic. So yeah. But yeah, there's a whole big bunch of stuff that you set up. You're going to build your app with Flask using Python. So you're going to use this is some of the OS. This might be the actual entire script. So you can just copy paste that in along with your embed.py. This module handles the embedding process, saving uploaded files, splitting and loading the data, adding documents to the vector database. So this is um, various utilities that you're going to use, your temp folders, your defined file names. They do a little bit of shorthand here, CT and TS, which is not exactly sure where those are. File name is a string. So you're going to split those, right? So anything that's above a certain, yeah, you're going to the chunk size is 7,500 bytes, so 7.5 kilobytes per, right? Um, you want to make sure that you've got enough space. So your PDF files are going to get chunked, right? They're going to pull all that data in. It's an unstructured PDF loader, so you're going to load those in, and it's going to split those out with the text bits. Um, there's actually other, if you want to pre-process these things, you can actually get your PDFs to um, text only, or like what I was thinking about doing, because I wanted to use role-playing materials from places like Home Brewery and Natural Crit and those areas to, add some stuff to my RPG soloing campaign stuff. So let's say you come in here, see this is a 6-page PDF doc for the Summoner class for 5e. You can, it'll pull all the text out of this PDF file, or you can go to source and clone to new. And then it will pull, instead of creating a PDF of this doc, I can just go over here, Control A, or Shift A, copy this into VS Code, save it as a text file, and then it would just import a lot easier than this nicely rendered HTML file would, or the PDF file would. So there's a number of ways of doing it, depending on how you want to, where's the instructions I was using? There it is. It'll do it for you, or you can just say, take this text file and upload it. And you're gonna add everything to your vector DB. You're gonna add documents and chunks up to a certain size. So one of the problems I came up with was I didn't know about the chunking bit. So I was trying to upload a 50 meg PDF into a system, and it was choking on the ingestion port. So because it didn't know how to chunk those things. So that's why you need these. And then here's the query bit. So here's how to process user queries. So you're gonna get a prompt. It's gonna ask you for a prompt. So there's some PDF or some Python files you're going to need for that. This module initializes and returns a vector database instance. Ugh. So good stuff. And then you can run your app. So you're going to choose your env to store your environment variables. And then app.py, it says once the server is running, you can start making requests to the following endpoints. So you'll do a curl, right? Um, so curl request post URL localhost 8080 embed multi-part form data, and then the form file will be whichever PDF you need. Okay. And then the response file embedded successfully. And it's going to tell you a response. So when your data is your query down here on the bottom, who is Nasser, and then it's going to give you a response based on that. It's pretty cool. So it's not a pretty UI, but it is a UI. So you're going to query on 8080 your endpoint, and then this is how it wants you to format that in a key value pair. So here's the key value pair down here. I'm sure there's nicer ways of creating like a nice UI or something like that that'll give it back to you on a website or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, that's just what been looking at and playing with the last couple days because I'm just terribly interested in trying to make this work. So anyway, Walt, thanks for sticking around. If you have, appreciate you. Hope everything goes well. Please hit me up offline about the other thing, Walt, if you can. And otherwise, thank you to all the people who are here. If you're lurking or not, if you found this interesting, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. I need some subscriptions because my little four dot thing is a little on the low side. I'd love to have 15 subscriptions, but it just is what it is. But I'll be back on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll have some news to talk about, and yeah, hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Okay, have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves, as we're fond of saying here, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.